Rabbi Manis Friedman. Hello, thank God it's Tuesday. Mar Hatima Tova, first and foremost. And of course, the question is, we always talk about it around this time of the year. Things are rapidly changing, and in 5,780, I remember it precisely, exactly 4 years ago, you said on this radio, prepare to be surprised. And I think we have been nothing but surprised ever since. And so many things have taken place that have taken us by surprise. And of course, I want to know, you're so good, you're so on top of calling it as it is. So, of course, my question is, what are we in for in 5784?
Well, surprises can go both ways, positive and not so positive. The surprises so far have been pretty much negative. Unprecedented negativity, confusion, evil, unbelievable. Things we never would have imagined. And they've become norm, mainstream. Crazy, crazy, crazy. This year it's going to be the other. The surprises will all be positive. Because now that we're expecting more negative, everything positive is going to be a surprise.
Rabbi Friedman, I'm going to quote you on that all the time now. Expect positive surprises. Amazing. Great news.
Yep. It's time. It's time. I think people are ready. This is your new look?
Oh no, I knew you were going to announce it. I was trying to be inconspicuous. Yes, that's my resolution for Is it that noticeable? Yes, that's my resolution for the new year. And yes, my new look is covered.
Great.
So I guess that's positive number one. Surprise.
Positive. It's good.
Thank you.
More comfortable this one?
Not yet. Not yet. Getting used to it, but excited because okay, so I guess I have to announce to the world that yes, I have covered my hair as a Jewish woman should, and I always knew that day would come. I didn't know when, and it did. It came, and I am very excited and positive, and both my husband and I were finally ready for it. We were both not ready before. It was one of the hardest mitzvahs for me to take on because my hair was such a signature part of me. It still is. It's still under this little hat over here, and it will be. It's a promise I made to my husband. The hair is not going anywhere. It's staying, but it's definitely something that I am very excited that I was able to finally do because, having it hang over you, knowing that this is the right thing to do, but not doing it is much harder than just making the decision and doing it. So the decision is made and it's done, and I am very happy about that.
Getting a lot of comments or?
No one is saying anything negative, and that's a good thing.
There is nothing negative.
Yeah, I don't feel negative. I definitely feel a lot of positivity, and feels like I have a crown on my head. That's how I look at it. So I'm, we're happy. So and hopefully everybody's on board with it. It's again, I'm in a secular world, so, and people definitely have seen me going through the changes over the past 10 years because that's the time my husband and I became a Balei Tshuva. And the changes they've been going through the 10 years, and I think this is pretty much the last serious step that we needed to take, and we did, and it's exciting. And I wasn't planning to share it with the whole world today, but it's okay. It's good. Shana tova. But now back to the topic, 5784. So it's. Thank you so much for the positive news from the get-go about being surprised in a good way for a change, because it's true. We've gotten used to this, and the thing is that the bad news is now being taken almost with humor. It's just people are laughing it off. Anybody you speak about the atrocities that are taking place in the world right now, people are taking it lightly. No one is taking it like it's the end of the world. Everyone is like, okay, what else? What else is going to be dished out our way? So pretty much the question is, what kind of good news are we in for? Because right now things don't look so terrific. I mean, we are in a recession, even though people are not saying it out loud. The media is not announcing it, but I'm sure it's felt. The job market is atrocious. The prices are sky high, almost double since last year. I mean, I'm talking about groceries and all of the necessities, and they're still going up. The gas price is up. So realistically, we are in inflation and in a recession, even though it's not being said out loud. What can we expect economically? Are we... what good surprises are coming in the economic senses, if any?
Well, if I tell you, it won't be a surprise. I don't know. I don't know how exactly it's going to happen, because it's a real surprise. It's not something we can predict. So all predictions have to be taken with a grain of salt, because we don't know. So people who used to be accurate with their predictions, not anymore. No, what's happening is beyond our imagination, which is good, because that's exactly what we need. Not just a little tweaking of the system that we're used to. That wouldn't be good enough. It has to be a radical change. And radical is unpredictable. So it's going to be not just better, but much better. Much better.
Should we worry? I mean, should we worry about any of the things that we're seeing right now that are kind of really scary, like, the economic changes is one, but also like so many wars. Just the one today, Armenia and Azerbaijan all of a sudden decided to go at it. And, we're not 100% sure China and Korea, if they're still okay, how long they're going to be hanging in there, and Russia and Ukraine are still at it big time. So, I mean, again, I'm saying it with a smile, because it's already a delirious kind of attitude towards what's going on. But, I mean, I don't even know any other way of treating it anymore.
Well, the old evils, wars, conflicts, that's not news, in a sense. It's the stuff that we never saw before, that kind of evil, that is on the one hand very frightening, and on the other hand destined to make a change, because that kind of evil we don't tolerate. So, and it's not just that we don't tolerate it, it's the kind of an evil that doesn't have a long shelf life. It's too weird. It's nobody really benefits except for a handful of people, and who entitled them to that? So it won't work. Can't work. So really what we have to keep our eye on is sudden, surprising differences, changes. The typical stuff, prices go up, prices go down. That is not shocking. It's very annoying and some painful. But the unprecedented stuff is unprecedented evil and unprecedented good. I think that's the idea, that everything is surprising. Another war? Why is that so surprising? The fact that nobody wants the war, oh, that's different. That's a welcome change. So, exactly how the good is going to happen is just stand by and watch. But expect it. Expect the world to become very much better, more livable, more doable, more meaningful. Yeah. It's time.
100% it's time. As I said in the synagogue over Rosh Hashanah, I said, if somebody told me that you have to run through the minefield to get to Mashiach right now, I would take off my heels in a second and, sprint through it, because realistically it's becoming completely unbearable. And it's not like we're lacking something. We're not. We have food, we have clothes, we have our health, thank God. We have everything, but it's still unbearable. It's still unbearable. It's just ridiculous. It's not personal anymore. It's general. The general atrocities that are going on and the ridiculousness of the world, state of the world today, that's unbearable, and it's got to change. I think personally we're still all completely fine, thank God. Well, more or less. Rabbi Friedman, what do you think were the most prominent, visible spiritual changes that took place last year that are changing the world towards this revealed goodness, let's call it? I hope that's what you meant when you said be prepared for good surprises this year.
I think when we look back at the last couple of years, from a historic perspective, people will say, those are the years in which all the power went from the leaders to the people. The leaders have no power. And whatever power they have does not belong to them. It's mostly illegal. They have their power illegally. And that's got to stop. But the fact that the power is shifting is a very positive thing for these last couple of years. In other words, we've realized that if the world is going to get better, it's up to me and you. Stop looking to leaders. Stop depending on organizations. And it's people to people. One of the prophecies before the coming of Mashiach is that a man will not teach his brother, because all will know me equally. It's such a democratic, but extreme democratic statement. You won't need a teacher. Never mind a dictator. You won't even need a teacher. That is individuality on steroids. You won't need a king. You won't need a president. You won't need a mayor. You won't even need a teacher. So really it has become the average person, the silent majority of history, are now empowered. And that's the only place it's going to come from. All the goodness. So goodness is not going to be changed. Good is good. What was always good will still be good. It's just how many people and how naturally the goodness is going to blossom. That's about 70% of all the prayers on Rosh Hashanah. It's not about it's not about forgiveness or repentance. That's Yom Kippur. It's all about the world coming to its senses, and not through leaders. For example, that very, very powerful prayer, every created being should know its creator. Every formed creation should know who formed it. That is such an amazing prayer, and yet it's so ridiculously simple. I mean, what are we asking for? If you were created, you should know who your creator. What is that, heroic? Is that genius? What is that? You were created. Who created you? You don't know? 5,000 years of human history and you don't know who created you? Come on. So there's that famous story in the Talmud. One of the sages was riding along on his donkey, and he sees on the side of the road a really ugly guy. I think we've mentioned the story before. Very ugly guy. So he stops and he says to him, "How ugly?" And the man said, "Oh, don't complain to me. Complain to my designer who designed me." And we understand the story to mean this sage had never seen ugliness before. People see what they live. The life you're living decides or determines what you're going to see. If something is not in your life at all, you don't notice it, even though it's right there in front of your eyes. So this sage, he never saw ugliness. And when he did see it, it was like, whoa, why? And he realized that the reason he is seeing it is because there is something he can do to fix it. So he thought quickly and he analyzed, where is this ugliness coming from? From the fact that the man was so arrogant that he never admitted to a maker, to a higher power. Thinking even quicker, he thought, what can I do in these minutes as we pass each other? What can I do to make it better, to alleviate some of that arrogance? So he said to him, "You're a self-made man. Why did you make yourself so ugly?" So the man said, No, I didn't do that. Complain to my designer, to my maker. And he wasn't as ugly anymore. The sad thing is, when we find something wrong within ourselves, we attribute it to a higher power, whatever that higher power may be. Bad psychology, traumas that I couldn't control that are not my fault. But all of a sudden, it's not about me. Oh, I didn't do it. Don't blame me. Well, talking about you. all of a sudden something about you is not your doing? No. Everybody else is responsible. The world is responsible. The universe made me this way. Anything but me. Which, of course, is true. But why can't you recognize that about good things also? That you're ugly? Oh, no. Complain to my maker. I'm smart? Oh, yeah, that's me. Why not attribute it to your maker? Why only the negative, right? So it's really just a matter of simple honesty. You wake up in the morning. Did you do that? This is how you work. You go to sleep when you want to go to sleep. You wake up when you want to wake up. It's all under your control. You've got it. You've got it all. No, you don't. Why is it so hard to admit that? And what do you gain by not admitting it? Ugliness makes you ugly. So what's happening and what we're praying for on Rosh Hashanah is that the world should simply wake up and just admit what's what. Not asking to become spiritual or holy or saintly, but can we stop denying and ignoring the obvious reality? It's enough already. And like you say, life is good enough. Why do we have to tamper with it? It's so strange that when life is good, we mess up the most. What happened to the old principle of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Why are we tampering with life when life is good? Just say thank you and you're fine. No. You got to come up with schemes. And so every created being should know its creator. That's just sanity. It's a sin to it's a sin to call it religion. Recognizing who your creator is the most natural thing in the world. I mean, we are created. That's not a religious concept. So if you're created, shouldn't you know who created you? Who to blame? So when things go bad, we blame God. Or we stop believing in him because, hey, why'd you do that? And when things are good, you don't blame him?
Rabbi Friedman, how weak are we by this time? What do you think?
Weak?
Awake. How awake is the world by now, by this year?
Awake and aware? Years and years of abuse, and as a Jewish people, we know this firsthand. You become numb, not stupid, just numb. You see everything going wrong, and there's no explosion, there's no eruption, there's no reaction. We're numb. Years and years of bad news and suffering and persecution, you shut down your emotions. So I think people are very, very aware. Why isn't there a stronger reaction? We're pretty numb. But we can tolerate only so much before we get triggered, which would be a good thing. Now we're triggered over petty things, which is silly. But we need to get triggered about the big things. And it would be nice if people would get really intolerant of this indifference. You have a creator. How long are you going to ignore that? Why would you want to ignore that?
Rabbi Friedman, so the big things are not this gender confusion and senseless wars. Those are not the big things. You're saying something else right now. You're saying that what is exactly that big thing that we have not fully awakened to yet?
Well, first of all, the big issue has always been, in Judaism, morality. And gender dysphoria is a horrible, painful. What's the moral issue? That's what we need to keep our eye on. Are we becoming more moral or less moral? That's the only issue. Is there a new strain of virus going around? That's not everybody's problem. Go to a doctor and make sure you don't have it. I mean, that is not the big issue. The big issue has always been morality. What's new today in morality is that morality is not a human invention, and that every group and every society can create its own relative morality. No, it's got to be the real thing, which means, and people should get used to saying this, are you serving your creator or not? Calling it morality has become meaningless. The idea of morality has become too confused and too messy and too loose. So let's stop talking morality, which means very little these days. Let's start calling it, are you serving God? Because that's what God created us for, to be in a relationship with Him. I mean, the Torah says it so clearly, and we read it without... The verse says, what does God ask of you after all, but to fear Him and do His mitzvahs? What is that saying? What should we be hearing? What should shock us in that quote? And very sadly, it doesn't surprise anybody. It doesn't shake anybody up. What is God asking of you? That is what God asks of us? I thought He just commands and dictates. What is this asking of us? Actually, it reminds me of Kennedy. Kennedy's famous line in his inauguration speech. Ask not what the country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. God is asking. How do you remain indifferent to that? How do you just read that and continue on as if you haven't heard anything? So, one good thought for the holiday season, and I think we spoke about this before. What does fear of God mean? What are you afraid of? He's going to get you? That's not fear of God, that's fear of pain. There's nothing noble about that. Fear of God means, once you know that God asked you for something, how could you not? That's called fear. It's not a matter of consequence, punishment, suffering. No, no, no. If somebody asks you for a favor, how could you not? If someone really, really close to you asks you for a favor, how could you not? If someone very close to you is also a very important, powerful person, how could you not? That's what we're praying for and wishing for, that the world should wake up and say, God asks and we're just ignoring him? Can't do that. What a great world this would be. God says, do not get comfortable. I'm paraphrasing. Do not get comfortable with poor people in your midst. Don't accept that as a necessary part of nature or life. No one should be hungry. No one should be poor. No one should be poor. We're not talking about saving people who are starving. That goes without saying. The Torah says, why is it okay to have poor people in your midst? Why is that not disturbing you? So, if everyone in the world was committed to this one principle, God says, don't let people stay poor. Poor means you don't have enough money for the next 2 meals. So we're not talking about somebody who's dangerously in, starvation mode. We're talking about a person who has what to eat, but he doesn't have money for the next 2 meals. That should not be tolerable. So if everybody in the world said, no, we can't let people be poor, what a beautiful world this would be. Just that one thing. But we're very comfortable. There are homeless people, there are poor people, there are starving people. Yeah, there are problems. And that's it. So, what I'm looking forward to is people who can't just ignore what needs to happen and will make sure that it does happen. That's all. How can you not? How can you not? God gives you everything, every single day, like manna from heaven, and you don't do anything in return. How could you? How could you? That doesn't mean get religion. It just means, hey, a little decency. How could you? Nothing?
Amazing, Rabbi Friedman. I really hope that that's exactly the kind of world we're about to see, and this, like, as soon as possible, like now. And I'm also very, very happy to share with you that we have done this program for almost 5 years now, believe it or not. It's been a while, and it was very, very hard to get people interested. I don't want to say wake up, because I think everyone is awake, but interested enough to start asking. And right now I'm getting an outpour from people all over, and the people that a few years ago would be probably the least likely people to be asking questions, to be asking the right, good questions. And I have so many requests for so many important topics that people are just requesting, please, I have this in my family, and and people are, that goodness is waking up, and people don't want to tolerate dealing with what is being dished out anymore, and people really want to understand, and they're asking good questions. And I think this year is going to be amazing, because I think we can just everybody can really come together in goodness and in morality, as you were saying, or basically in doing the most important thing we need to be doing while we're here. which is understanding why we're here and doing our job. And Rabbi Friedman, thank you so much for making that message come across so loud and clear, and people are getting it, and this is very, very exciting times.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year, and we should have only good news.
Amen. Amen. And to you and to your whole family. And thank you so much for everything that you're doing for humanity when we really, really need it. Thank you so much. And Happy New Year.